It's Chelsea.
It's Nina.
And you're in the Critics' Kingdom.
So today we are so excited.
Yes.
Because we have watched a childhood true favorite, absolute favorite, the beloved, the iconic
Cheetah Girls.
Cheetah Sisters.
Yes, the Cheetah Girls.
Yes.
The first one, and on the second part of this, when we get into the review, we're going to invite two of our friends to also help us out, because we basically assembled a black girl panel for this.
We really did, and we watched it as
New
a
York black girl panel,
New York
except
black girl
for me,
panel.
because I'm the only one that's not from New York.
Watched it as a
yes.
black girl crew. It was so fun and wonderful, and we're just like
highly
so
recommend when COVID's not as bad.
Yeah.
Or post.
not trying to encourage.
Yeah, post COVID though, do a sister circle together and watch.
It really
Cheetah
is,
Girls.
or do it via Zoom.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
you can make it work.
You can make it work, or Netflix, or you can do Netflix party.
Sing the
but
songs.
do it. You can make it work. You can definitely make it work for sure. But Cheetah Girls came out in 2003. And I think that's why it hit our generation so hard.
We were 10.
We were literally 10 because we were both born in 93.
Perfect age for this film.
Maybe
9. It might have come out.
Yes, depending on
it came out in the summer.
It did come out in the summer. So we were 9. So yes, we were the exact age. Disney shot a target. It hit us.
It hit us hard in the chest, square in the chest, in my heart. Forever has a space there. I didn't know how much I loved this movie. I always knew, I knew Cheetah Girls was a favorite.
Yeah.
But when it came on, listen, y'all, I have not thought about these songs in maybe 2 decades. If we're being close to 2 decades, they have not crossed my mind one time. I knew, when I say that, me and Chelsea and our friends knew every word to every one of these songs, just immediately, and all the riffs. All the I don't know what they're called, the backup moments.
Yeah, we knew all the backup vocals.
It was insane, and so revitalizing and wonderful. It was just a great experience, a lovely day. Oh,
literally just overall. So to get into the recap of this, I think most of you generally know the idea, but we'll just refresh you a little bit. So it's set in New York, and it's focused on these 4 young...
based on a book series.
Yeah, based on a book series by Deborah Gregory. But it's focused on these 4 young women who are all going to this performing arts high school here in the city. And 2 of them are black girls. One of the girls is Latinx, and then we end up finding another girl who is... She appears white, but we don't actually know what she is because she's a foster child, aka Dorinda.
Yeah.
So
we all remember.
But all of them are in a singing group together called the Cheetah Girls, which Galleria and Chanel were the ones who basically created it. And
they've been friends the longest.
They've been friends for since they were little.
Yeah.
And then Aqua and Dorinda joined once they
I assume middle school-esque.
Yeah, or once maybe they all started this high school together.
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe something of that nature.
But they all met each other and created this the singing group. And we basically see them
the first
trying to reach their dreams.
That's
to become recording artists and make a lot of money. Because they're 15, 14 age. They're freshmen in high school.
Yeah, so when it opens, it opens on the dance number, which is great. It's fantastic. We get
see them
so
performing.
much early aughts fashion, just thrown at your face. All the moves. It's just so fun with Together We Can. Just to clock the song. It was great.
Yeah.
And they're performing at Chanel's, who's Adrienne Bailon.
Yes.
Performing at her little brother's birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess kind of seems like end of summer. And the big to-do that they're sort of focused on at this time is auditions for the school talent show coming up, because they really need to get a spot in the talent show, because there is the prize for the talent show is time in a real recording studio.
Right.
And they're like, oh, we could do our demo, and that's the kickoff point for us to be able to launch our careers and our dreams. So that's sort of where we start with them. And we get, a little bit later, we get a little bit of their backgrounds, their family lives, mostly Chanel's and Galleria's, because they're sort of the 2 main.
They're the founding members, if you want to say.
And we see that, Galleria, she lives with her mom and her dad. She's biracial. Her mom is played by the gorgeous, the fantastic. It's just like absolutely
Lynn
wonderful.
Whitfield. Can't go wrong.
Lynn Whitfield in all of her glory.
Yes.
And we see that, her and Galleria, she supports her daughter, but, they're a little bit at odds a bit because Galleria sort of wants her to. She appreciates that she's good at this and that she enjoys singing and dancing and she has a little group, but she clearly wants her to focus a bit more on, school and, just responsibility. All the things, she wants her to mature into a mature young woman. And she wants to make sure that her head is on straight. So we see a little friction there. And on Chanel's side, we sort of see that she lives with her mother.
It's like a single family home, but like her mom is also very well off. We learned as soon as we entered the apartment.
Perhaps a model in a former life.
Yeah.
And they have more of a sort of friend relationship, it seems. Her mom's borrowing her clothes and all of that.
Yeah.
In the top. But so, after we get like, those little bits, we see them at school. They're getting ready for,
the talent
show. There's essentially, we're watching the dynamics of them as
a group.
as friends beyond just a group. At lunch, we see who will end up being Galleria's boo thang, who's like, oh,
Derek.
Y'all trying out for the talent show too?
It's Kyle Schmid, also from Alley Cat Strike.
Yeah, which is he's still fine.
Still fine.
But so then we go to the talent show auditions, and we get probably not the most iconic song, but definitely my favorite song.
Cinderella, which I think you could say that's definitely like
it's up there for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely one of it's the other thing with this movie is all of the songs are great.
They really are. They're so good. They're so well written.
They're just so well done.
Fantastic.
But then we get Cinderella, and then their theater teachers like, this is great. You guys are amazing. Like, you're in, of course.
And shout out to the actor playing Drinka, who like actually I'm just learning for the first time.
She is a black trans woman,
and kudos to like that's amazing. That she was on screen in this film at that time.
But it's also because she was passing.
But yeah,
people did not know she was trans.
I had no idea.
And she only came out as trans in a wonderful Netflix documentary that just came out earlier this year, produced by Laverne Cox, called Disclosure, which is on Netflix. You should watch it now. And that's the first time she's ever come out saying that she's a trans woman.
But, it was like
she played the role so well, though. Just like a 70s disco singer who's now like a high school theater teacher. Like, it's just such a great.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's great.
And so she clearly, has a lot of support for these 4 girls, and she thinks that they're very capable, and so they get this spot in the talent show, which is great. But at that audition, there also happens to be a former alumni of the school, Jackal Johnson,
who's a big record label guy,
and he's a shark. Like, you know what I mean? He's your regular one of the mill early aughts,
literally.
Like in that weirdly shaped sunglasses and his gelled up hair, just looking swarmy. And he's like, "Oh, you girls got it! Like, come and like, I'm gonna make you guys stars." Now, Lynn Whitfield and
her name is Dorothea in the film, by the way.
And
Garibaldi.
Lynn Whitfield and Chanel's mother are also there, and they swoop in like real mother.
They cut that out
Cheetahs
really
for
quickly.
real. They're like, excuse me, sir, like you can't just be rolling up talking to these kids. Like, we're not doing that. And they kind of just like squash it down. We cut to later, and like Galleria is very upset about this because she's like, "Mom, I do all my work. Like I'm such a good kid, and I like have my head on straight, but I love this, and this is a real opportunity for us. Why are you trying to ruin it?" And her dad sort of talks to her mom and is like, give
and
her
her mom's
a
like,
chance.
we will do this meeting, but I need to go with you.
Exactly, and we're going to do it my way. And the moment that I say that it's time to go, we're going to go. Like, if I hear anything I don't like, we're going to go. She's very, on it about it.
So they end up, the next day they're going to the meeting. On the way there, Gabriella steps in some dog poo, unfortunately, because they end up having to, like, get out of the cab and walk. Very common in New York. And when they get there, Jackal immediately like makes a joke about it, and then Gabriella and Chanel have to go to the bathroom to wipe off, with Chanel wiping off Gabriella's shoes for her. They go back in, they have a little meeting, and then at that point Jackal is like, I think you guys are great, like you know,
Here's a contract.
Yeah,
We
he's
wanna
like,
sign
here
you.
is literally a contract, and then Lynn Whitfield starts looking over it and is like,
Redlining
nope,
the hell
nope,
out of it.
nope,
But the girls are really excited
no.
about it.
So then Galleria is like, Mom, let's do this later, like, not in front of this man. And so they like quickly leave after that, and and then they like go to school the next day and they tell everybody about it. But Galleria is slowly getting a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it really is. I like to call it her diva syndrome. Like that's essentially what we get. Like just various pieces of.
Yeah.
For a little while, of
and
just
it's
like all the
bigger
ways
and bigger and bigger
that she is like really trying it.
Yeah.
And her friends, her group are very aware of this. Like it even gets to the point where the school is overhearing her talk about it. There's a bashing site for the Cheetah Girls.
Right, they're over them as people at this point. And
Galleria is rude to her theater teacher. She's
right.
rude to the other students. It's like it's a whole situation. She's rude to Dorinda.
Right.
Because she's like, Dorinda, why you always look so broke down? Essentially.
Right.
Get it together. And from there, we end up seeing that Dorinda, you know, we see her at like a dance studio, and we learn essentially that she's working at the dance studio to pay for her dance lessons. And we see that like what's going to be a side storyline for her is that she's the dancer, she's not the singer. She gets this opportunity via auditioning. Well, not auditioning. She's just like working,
just helping out, and then she ends up being able to dance.
Dancers,
to be with the dance crew.
Yeah, and that's just like a story that she has.
Right.
Meanwhile, Chanel's mom has been dating this Frenchman Luc. Yeah. And she's sort of swept up because he's rich, and she's kind of trying to scam and scheme, and she's contemplating selling the house and selling the apartment and like moving to Paris, and she's not really talking to Chanel about it, and then she like abandons her
when they were supposed to go shopping together.
When they were supposed to go shopping as a way to bond to go to a Broadway show with Luke, and that makes Chanel very upset. She takes her mom's credit card and goes and spends it crazy.
Yep.
And then because she's just having one of those days, decides to sort of go visit her friend Dorinda because the Cheetah Girls are in an odd place right now.
Right.
And she goes to visit Dorinda and essentially learns that Dorinda lied about where she lived, or she wasn't completely truthful. She omitted some stuff, that she doesn't live in the fancy building. She actually lives
her foster father is the superintendent,
and she lives with a foster family.
Right, and she's a foster kid.
Yeah, she's a foster kid. They're not wealthy. She doesn't have much.
Right.
Her and Adrienne Bailon, Chanel have a little bit of a heart-to-heart, and where Chanel's essentially like, it doesn't matter, we're your friends, like that's not the important stuff, it's like who you are, and we know who you are, that's okay.
Right.
Although she really does for a while mistakenly think that she's half black, and that's what Dorinda was trying to hide because her foster mom is black, and opens the door and you can see it on Chanel's face that she's just trying to be like, okay, how'd you come out that light? But that's fine. She literally says, like, girl, you don't gotta be ashamed.
Like, we're all mixed
up in this jiggy jungle together. There's a lot of mixing happening in this film, which is fun.
Yes. So then from there, we end up, like, going to the next point, which is basically when Galleria kind of gets to the point where they're like, we can't do this anymore, girl. Like, it comes to a fruition at their, like,
next meeting.
Their, like, talent rehearsal, like, they're supposed to audition, and then that's the point where, like, Galleria tells Drinka, like, hey, like, we're not gonna be able to do this because we have to record our song the same day as the talent show. And they're like, girl, you're getting a little bit too big for your britches. And she also tells Dorinda that she's poor. And she needs to, like, afford better clothing. And even though Chanel had told her previously, like, this is
discreet, or
literally what's going on with Dorinda, and this is why she is the way she is. So at that point, Aqua steps in and she's like, look, girl, I can't do all this with you. This is not how I am. These other girls, they may be okay with it, but that's not me.
I don't roll that way. I'm from the South and we don't play that. I'm
exactly.
from Texas and we don't play that.
So at that point, Galleria is still just big-headed and doesn't even, like, it doesn't bring her down at all. She's just like, these girls are crazy, but fine. I'll deal with it. And her mom ends up giving her the gift of being like, you guys can go to your studio recording by yourself the next day. So they're going, and at this point, Jackal is like, okay, we want to like take what you guys have, but cover it in masks and make you a completely different group.
Called Global Get Down. That's all about saving various endangered animals or representation.
Right, and they literally with like various masks.
It's great. Dorinda's the panda.
Yeah.
Galleria stays the cheetah.
She's a cheetah.
They make Aqua a wet seal.
Yeah.
And Chanel a snow leopard. And then they have this song playing that's already Dorinda's the panda.
Yeah, Dorinda's the panda. Yeah.
And they have this song playing that's like this
just
pop, gross,
annoying pop
synthetic
song.
Voice.
And they're like, you guys will have to lip sync.
And it's like we go.
And Galleria is literally like, this is my worst nightmare because I write.
Yeah, and she's like, actually, we have something much better for you. And they get up and they perform Girl Power, which is like,
yeah. And he's like, that's cute. We want that energy. But you need a lip sync. So at that point, Galleria's like, I'm out. We're all out. She says they're all out. They don't go with her. And then she's like, oh, okay. Now I realize what this really is. And then she just leaves, and all the cheetahs are separated.
Yeah.
And then we get to a point where they don't end up getting back together until the end when Toto gets stuck in like a sewer. And everybody sees Galleria on New York 9 basically begging for them to rescue her dog. Her dog ends up finally getting rescued once all the girls come together and they sing to Hold On again to the dog. And at that point it just turns into a music video. Yeah, Together We Can. Yeah. And at that point it just turns into a music video and they perform Cheetah Girls, Cheetah Sisters. And the film ends.
And the film ends on that note.
Yes.
And they win the talent show.
Yes.
You know, they reject
even though they
Jackal.
never technically...
Yeah. They were never technically in it. But
in the running.
They reject Jackal. They win the talent show. They get Time and Real Recording Studio. They come back together as the Cheetah Girls that they naturally are. Their parents are proud of them, it seems. And all is well in the Cheetah universe.
Yeah.
That is the basic rundown of them.
So, to get into the review, we've actually invited two of our friends over to join in this Black Girl panel about one of our favorite films, Lisa and Jasmine. Woo! If you guys want to say anything special about yourselves.
My name is Jasmine. I'm from the Bronx, most importantly. My Instagram @ is spiced with a D. With Jazz.
Yes.
My name is Lisa. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I have Instagram, but I don't really use it, so y'all don't need it. It's okay.
She's like Nina, guys.
Yeah. That's why we're friends.
In terms of the social media usage.
I scroll through to support my friends. That's what
Do you scroll?
That's more than I do. Like,
me, yeah. I see the Oxtail Squat stuff.
Lisa's only on there just for the support. She's like, I'll give you a like.
I saw a story once and I was like, oh, Lisa.
Right. Every once in a while, that'll happen. So yeah, we've assembled essentially a New York Black girl panel, except for me. I'm not from New York. But everybody else is. Which I feel like is perfect for this movie because it's set in New York, even though it's really Toronto.
It's always Toronto.
It's always Toronto.
Just know that.
As you already know from the many times we've talked about it. But, you know, I think overall we thought the Cheetah Girls, we all loved it as kids. It was such a big part of the culture in general.
Yeah, I definitely remember, you know, learning the dances and singing the songs and performing them in the schoolyard, you know, with my little friends and for our parents and all of that. So it was definitely a big part of my Black girl identity growing up, for sure.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I did the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really rock with the cheetah print. I'm like, that's just it's never going to be cute. But it's cute for them. No, I knew it wasn't. But I appreciated, you know, the timing of it was great. Like right after the big New York City blackout. Yeah. Remember like waiting. I was like, listen, they keep talking about this Power is going to come on. But the Cheetah Girls, cause DCOM drops at 8, I think it's like 8 p.m. every Friday.
Yep.
And it literally came on, I want to say like a half hour before Cheetah Girls premiered. And I think I cried with relief. I was like, oh my God. And it was so great. And I was like, I still know all the songs.
It was, it was like stepping into a light. That's literally what this film was like when it came out.
We were re-singing all the songs.
Yes, and it honestly really solidified, like for me, Raven's iconic status as that girl, that childhood actress.
Truly. Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those ones that like lived on, and pop culture in general, but I think especially like black girl pop culture.
Yeah.
So in going back and looking at it, you can see why, and completely understand it. But I also think there's like a few things in it that now that we're older, you start to realize. You know, I think one of the things that we discussed while we were watching it was just like how it was very classist, like on the lowest of keys, but you're obviously not aware of that when you're 10 years old. But just in the way that like that Galleria treated Dorinda, and then even like seeing all their various like living situations, except for Aqua's, which was suspect.
Very
Which was very suspect. But yeah, just seeing like all their different living situations and how they all treated each other, and then even the fact that like Galleria and Chanel had been friends for the longest, and they were also the two like wealthiest ones of the Cheetah Girls.
Very, very. Lots of questionable things, but also it's like looking back now that we're older and we're more wiser. You know, it's hard not to just like project also onto these characters because now that we know a lot of background information about like the actual actors and
You see
their
what's become of
troubled
them.
water relationships. We're talking about you, Prometheus, and Raven. I'm not Black Simone. You know what I mean? Like it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah, I think, and also what comes into it is even something that was pointed out while we were watching the movie is how the entire cast is like light skinned. Which again, not something I picked up on as a child. I just read everybody as like brown, except for obviously Dorinda.
Yeah.
But it's like the entire cast is they're all lighter skinned folks, and it's very interesting that you would have that in like an essential black girl movie. Like that's what it's become.
Yeah. And I think to just piggyback on that a bit, I think also the fact that we remember it and we identify with it as a black girl movie. When we watching it, we realize that, well, actually, there's technically only, according to this film, one black girl in the group. Mm-hmm. Everybody else, Gallery is biracial. Chanel is Latinx. And Dorinda is
white.
We don't know.
We don't know, but white.
And
she's white. She's physically white.
She's physically white. She's white passing.
Exactly. There might be something else behind there, but we don't know.
Questionable, but she's white passing.
Right.
Yeah, and even the Galleria's love interest is white.
Yeah.
And it just I don't remember it being as mixed as it is.
Yeah.
It is a truly sort of diverse cast in theory. Like we all know, like Raven Simone's actually not biracial,
right,
in real life, but that's what she was playing.
Yeah.
So that too was just a sort of interesting, or at least for me, it was an interesting thing to like see and to grapple with. The way in which my child's mind, because I was paying less attention to the words, obviously, in the like socio-political context of the words that were being spoken, saw brown people on the screen and latched onto that and that alone.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously many black girls across America did, because this is remembered as the black girl film.
Yeah. Honestly, it's weird to look at it now, and I think when I was younger, I would be considered light-skinned. My mom would be definitely considered light-skinned. So for me, I feel like I honestly didn't notice that there weren't honestly any dark-skinned people outside of the theater teacher in the movie.
Yeah.
And I identified because I'm like, oh yeah, Raven is like so great. Aqua, I love her from 3LW. I can tell you that I never even considered the colorism aspect or the lack of representation of darker skinned black people in the film outside of Dorinda's foster mom and the theater teacher.
Yeah.
And like the black guys, but they're more like sidekicks to like the white men.
Yeah, and it's like unless you get into like the more like supporting characters, and then you have like darker skinned black guys.
Kind of like jester like characters as well, where there's more like comedy relief as opposed to like
and they're literally
more
always in the background.
Characters.
Yeah, and none of them are like actual interests, because it's supposed to be that Galleria's love interest is this white boy, and then he has like this black friend who just literally like piggybacks off of whatever he says, or just blows up his spot. Like one of the two always happens. He's also his DJ because the white guy is for some reason a rapper.
A rapper. Oh my god. Isn't
Like,
that the worst?
that's never
like,
explained.
It's always a dreaded word. When you're like, oh, what's your hobby? Well, I like rapping. Oof. And he really dropped this like line about diversity.
Yes. He said black, white, Puerto Rican, or Asian. It doesn't matter what you are. It's
Does
a
he
hip
say
hop
Asian?
nation.
I always, I always thought he said Haitian, and I think that's just my West Indian Caribbean roots showing.
You said Haitian.
I really always thought it was Haitian.
I think he said Asian.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. But of course, also kind of problematic. Like, why is the white guy talking about it doesn't really matter? Sir, we don't live in a colorblind society, and this is almost what it sounds like.
Yeah, it definitely, I got that rewatching it now. I was like, 03, like, this was the post-racial era. Like, this is when we thought that we were in that world.
This is when Justin was wearing, he made his little hip-hop.
Oh, Timberlake? Yeah. Justified area.
Is that what they modeled him after? Because he had a lot of, I wouldn't even go as far to call it drip, but he had a little swag.
He had some swag.
Wait, you said the way he's walking.
Yeah. No, they very much made him read as like John B. Like, he was supposed to be like that white guy that was down.
For real.
And that's like, it's just like never questioned at all. But I think also, going back a little bit to the colorism thing, if any of you have ever read the books, which if you haven't, I actually would recommend, especially if you have like kids in that like, 7 to like 11-year-old range, they really love them. But they're really good. But all the books, if you look at the covers, all the girls are visibly brown. Yeah. Like, nobody is white. They're like, the Dorinda character is not a white girl. She's just a black foster girl. And even Chanel is supposed to be like Puerto Rican and Dominican, but she's a black Puerto Rican and Dominican. Like, you're not going to think she's anything but. So I do think it's interesting that then for the movie, they basically lightened everybody up. I want to say the Gabriella character might have looked lighter skinned, but she was still not as light as Raven from what I can remember. So it's very interesting that then when they bring it to screen, everybody's lighter.
Off topic, but or off track, because we're not necessarily talking about Cheetah Girls, but recently Tia Mowry said that her and her sister, during like the time of Sister and they had better ratings than Friends, they were like told you can't be on a magazine cover because black doesn't sell. So I think like now seeing this movie, because like I didn't remember, like I definitely remember it as like a very like I thought about it as a pro-black movie, like seeing people that look like me on the screen, but not really thinking about the skin color and the different tones. And now hearing her say that, like, with having a popular show also on Disney and being told it just doesn't sell. And I guess we've seen that throughout the years as well. Like, it's revolutionary seeing women like Lupita or darker skinned women and men like Idris on screen. So I think it's just like a symbol of the time as well. Before it was like, wait, no, we need more representation and people to actually represent the diaspora and the different skin tones and things that real people, not just a certain vision of what people think will sell just because it's a whitewash industry.
Right. Not just what they think white people will like.
Right, and
want.
white people aren't the only.
They're also
arbiters.
not the only people.
Yeah.
Are going to.
Yeah.
They're not your only audience. They're not the only dollar. Like.
Right.
Yeah.
Did Raven have her show? That's So Raven before
I
this?
think that it was. I feel like it was already in like
03?
a year. I think that the first, because I do remember in this she's credited as just Raven, not Raven Simone, and I think on the first season of That's So Raven, she's also just credited as Raven.
Yeah, the first season had just aired.
Yeah, I think that
the first season had just
they
aired.
were in tandem, and that's why. Because I feel like I remember like interacting with grown up Raven before Cheetah Girls. So that is the case.
Yeah, no, I think it's overall just something to like keep in mind that I think when you do, especially like children's programming, all tones should be represented because even like on the I think it was just like known that Solange was actually originally supposed to be the Aqua character. It wasn't supposed to be Keely originally, but like Matthew had to pull her out because she was like doing promo for her debut album. So then it's like you would have gotten the Aqua character that was, yes, more Southern or like an authentic Southerner, but she was still light-skinned. So it's like that all would have still been the same. So this was clearly just the type they were going out for. And I don't know if that was, whether that was Disney being like, this is who we need to be going for, or whether that was somebody else's choice. But it is just interesting to just be like, this, okay. Like, it's like, all right, we see what you guys were trying to do.
Yeah, I think on that note, you also see sort of, like, in theory, this is a progressive move or it's something progressive to do, but you still see it in the film, the ways that they pigeonhole themselves back into stereotypes anyway. There's that whole part where Drinka is the music teacher. She's describing each of the girls as like versions of herself, and she's like, "Oh, that's like Gallery, you're my biracial. Yeah, you're the biracial like
version of
me, headstrong version of me. Chanel, you're the like spicy Latina." That she literally says that spicy Latina version of me. What's the other one's name? Aqua.
Bubbles.
Aqua, like you're the sassy Southerner, and then she gets to Dorinda, and Dorinda has a bit of a complex because she's clearly the only white girl for miles, and is like, I know I'm shrimpy and white, and she's like, I was just gonna say you could dance, like, but okay,
but,
yeah, all right.
but sure,
but like even that they pigeonhole themselves there, and then this is also something that we talked about a bit, the idea that even the way that this is set up, like when I think about the fact that if you were gonna ask me, like, are there Black girl Disney Channel original movies, I would say the Cheetah Girls, and that would probably be it. And the fact that it's still like the representation that we have is still an act of like Black people performing. That's sort of always how we're represented. And you think about the Black canon, like we think about Let It Shine, we think about I mean, not really The Color of Friendship, but we think about even Jump In, like we think about these other sort of Black Disney Channel original movies. It's still us playing sports or performing for various other people, and those are ways in which, like, so in theory it's progressive to put this out there, but you have us doing the same old thing,
right?
And it sort of ends up reinforcing ideas about what is acceptable or what people of a certain hue are allowed to do in this world, what you can be and how you can go far.
Yeah, because it's like there's not really a other than if you want to argue like with Jump In that's like an athletic film, which it is to like a sports film, but which it is to a degree, but like it's not like they're having I don't know, like Corbin Blue racing, like drag racing, which is like that's a whole plot of a whole other Disney movie, or him rollerblading
or bowling
yeah, it's like they don't have like Black sports movies really for the DComs, which is like an odd thing that I think we didn't realize until we started like watching them, and it's just like wait, there's no like. But here, y'all got at least like a good 30 like films where you got these like white people doing these random ass sports.
They did give us Johnny Tsunami, yes, for the Hawaiian Islander representation.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
But that was one, so honestly, no kudos to that.
Yeah, and that's like the one Asian one, and then you only get the second one, I think, with the second one, Johnny Kapahala back on board. So, and it's like that came out like almost 10 years later.
We gave y'all Mulan, y'all better learn.
Y'all better get it.
And we did Pocahontas. We gonna count her under Asian, even though she's indigenous.
And we got Wendy Wu, although Wendy Wu hadn't come out yet.
Wendy Wu
that was much later, but
yeah.
But again, even it's the same thing with that, in Wendy Wu, it's like it's pigeonholed in assumptions about like what's Chinese culture? What is it going to be about? Of course, it's going to be about like
martial
arts and mysticism.
Yeah,
and rebirth.
Anything like, that's not Christianity,
right? Which, by the way, small plug, but you should actually check out our Wendy Wu episode. Because
if you haven't yet,
it is. Yes, we basically talk about like whether it was homage or exploitation to get into the martial arts in the only Chinese movie they ever did.
Well, who had the Jake the Dragon? Remember?
Oh, that was a show.
That was a TV show, American
Jake
Dragon,
Long,
Jake Long, which was again great. Voiced by Dante Bosco, a hero that is not sung.
A Filipino king.
So sexy.
Check him out in Lager Boys.
Exactly. Yes. Right? Like, just go up.
He's beautiful.
Yeah, no, he was fine.
Wasn't he in Sister Act?
He was in Moesha.
Is he in Moesha?
Yeah, he's in Moesha.
He's in Take the Lead.
I
remember him dancing in Take the Lead
with Yaya.
Mm-hmm. And
he's in a bunch of random
he's
things.
in another. He's
also the voice of Prince Zuko from Avatar. Like. he does, like, all of the characters he does are just really
inherently
good.
beautiful,
He's
y'all.
a
Check out his
Shout out to
design.
him.
He is an unsung hero of our upbringing.
Yes, he deserves.
For sure.
He deserves.
But yeah, honestly, it's funny because I don't think I ever even like realized that. I was like, ooh, so cool, and I didn't think anything else about anything. But I felt like Disney Channel is honestly where I learned about all these like that people did these sports. Like obviously you watch the Olympics, then I'm like, oh, actually there are kids
Who do these sports?
things.
Yeah.
Like you do competitive bowling. Like you can go. Like I'm from the Bronx. Like first of all, bowling was a birthday trip. You know what I mean? Like that was like fun times.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I wasn't just gonna go bowling. And then we certainly didn't have like go-kart drag.
Right, you're not
races.
drag racing.
We weren't.
You're not
skiing.
equestrians.
Yeah, where we, the horses and all. We weren't doing all of that. So it was just very. I was like, oh wow, there's all these sports. I mean, I don't know where I'm doing them in the Bronx, but it was great to. I feel like Disney Channel is where I first learned about figure skating, and so when I finally got the opportunity to learn in high school, I was like, oh my god, finally! And I would play the songs and
I can be a go figure.
Yeah.
Yes, I can do it.
I used to love that movie.
And I think that's in particular why it's so. Why, because I think that you can make an argument that, like, at the end of the day, it's a Disney Channel original movie. Like, come on. Like, we shouldn't expect them to sort of take up these mantles, right? To, like, go out there and showcase the best version of, like, actual diversity and representation and political correctness to the world. But at the same time, like, just because of what you were saying, Jasmine, the fact that for so many kids in America, these films are their introduction to, are their lens into worlds that they're never going to touch or that they're never going to see outside of their windows, right? Because of that, like, I would argue that they do have a responsibility to, there was a level of responsibility in this to, like, give us a dark-skinned cheetah girl.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there's always, like, I mean, I haven't worked in children's programming in my entertainment career, but I think there is a responsibility in children's programming to be representative not only of the world around us, but also to provide a learning environment. Like, yes, things are for fun, but you are making an impression and leaving a lasting impression on kids.
Yeah.
So therefore, yes, I feel like that's why children's programming has to be regulated, and we have to see more things, because what we see is what we learn. And honestly, people, especially now, I mean, even back then, people talk about, oh, now, people are putting iPads in front of their kids, but I'm like, I mean, I used to sit in front of the TV too. You know what I mean? And, and watch, and I learned quite a lot. Like Bill Nye the Science Guy, or like,
Arthur
on the shows.
Wishbone.
Cyber Chase.
Yes, I used to love Cyber Chase.
Mr. Rogers, like the classic Sesame Street. Like
Cyber Chase fueled my love of science. I was like, oh, this is so cool, and like math, and it's like you really can make a difference. I feel like you can't engage in children's programming or work in it if you're not doing that. It's just, so I feel like Disney, especially with all the coins they have, sis, y'all could be doing a whole lot. And they should. I mean, I don't know back then how much of a push diversity, was compared to now, but I mean, they were giving us all sorts of talking animals, and
It's true.
and different characters they created. You could have given us some blacks.
just a
sprinkle in a few.
Exactly,
Some
just
browns.
sprinkles. We love a sprinkle.
Yeah.
Some Asians, other than Chinese people, because they really are not the only country in Asia.
At all.
At
all.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I feel like I don't even think that I ever saw a character of that was either like Desi, that was like Indian, from Bangladesh or Sri Lanka or any,
Southeast
Pakistani.
Asian.
None of that
Yeah.
ever in a cartoon.
No, and it's true. You don't see it in a cartoon, and then also there's no Disney Channel original movie that exists. And I mean, in Return to Halloween Town, there's the genie character, and the girl who plays her is half Pakistani, I believe, when we looked it up. But that's never like explored.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like it is what it is. So it's like, but there should have been something like that now, you know? Because it's like I agree with you. I think you do have a responsibility when you're doing programming that's literally shaping young minds. Like, you have a responsibility to give them, like, the widest representation as possible because, you know, like Nina was saying earlier, that's how a lot of people get their entrees into most cultures is through TV, you know, and through entertainment in general. So it's like you do have to have a sense of like I'm doing something bigger than just making like adult programming. Yes, you need to be responsible, but at the same time, you shouldn't be shaping. You don't have to as much worry about like I'm not shaping your mind on certain things as like with children's programming. It's like they're 6. They have no they only know what their parents tell them, and I guess what their little friends tell them. So this is like going to be their only entree into like maybe they've never met a Latin girl from the Bronx or from wherever Chanel was supposed to be living downtown in New York. Like, and this is their like, oh wow, I didn't know Puerto Rican Dominican like was something that could exist. Like, and it's like so it does matter. Like it very much does matter.
It does.
And then I think like speaking of that, another part that was interesting is that you just get to see all of these different like family situations that are just like various. It's a range
Jasmine's
of
got
problematic.
thoughts.
Like it's a range of problematic.
I don't know what Disney. First of all these broken homes. Listen,
All these broken
I
homes.
get it. That is
That
the
needs a
reality of
hashtag.
the world. However, we see Lynn Whitfield as Galleria's mom, the queen, legendary queen that she is, beautiful,
She deserves.
dressed to the nines in every single scene, giving us all the advice, all the wisdom. She is a dame. And then we see Galleria's white Italian daddy with this accent that was giving me very much Brooklyn Mafia. You know what I mean? Little Italy in the Bronx. You know, that's what he was serving me. But he was always, you know, at least as Lisa mentioned, like very much like, oh, the nice. He was like the good cop to Lynn's bad cop.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't really there in any other scenes except at home and then when she lost Toto. So like, sir, where were you? Why didn't you accompany your daughter? Why didn't you have more thoughts about your daughter going to a meeting with grown men? And then
Hint,
hint, sir. And we didn't even know what he did, to be honest. There was no reference to his shop. And then we go to Chanel. Now, we have her mom who is, you know, dating a Parisian man. And then we hear that, you know, she's basically abandoning her daughter to date this man. And now she's thinking about moving, you know, to Paris to be with this man without consulting her daughter.
And don't forget about the son that we don't see.
Oh, yeah. And then Poochie, her other son, who we see in the very beginning,
And he shows up intermittently at the school.
Yes, he shows up at the talent show.
Yeah.
Which, okay, I'm sure he came with the mother. But then every time Chanel's home, we never see Poochie. And then he reappears at the very end with this black man who allegedly is his daddy.
And that's all.
And that's like us. We inferred that.
We heard that because we're like, who is this man standing next to? He's not the nanny. I know that. And then
the Manny.
we have Dorinda, who's a foster child, and we meet her black mom. We learn that she has a husband who's the super of this fancy building downtown, but I don't think we ever actually physically see his face. We just see this black mother, which, okay, and she talks about, you know, her mom didn't want her, and this whole thing, she doesn't know what she is, which, you know, a whole nother thing, but baby girl, you're white. Like, you're white passing. Like, white is somewhere there. But you know, that's a whole different topic. And then we get to the most concerning of it all. Aqua. Bubbles, where are your parents? I just, like, we never, ever even hear her reference to her parents. She talks more about being from Texas and hot sauce than she ever mentions her actual parental figures who brought her into this world. And even at the very end, where she somehow takes the subway and then ends up at school,
He might be the one in the cowboy hat.
We think her dad might have been in a cowboy hat because she's always wearing cowboy boots because, you know, South.
Him. She did come out of the subway alone.
She did. Yeah, so it's like, again, we're inferring.
And she's the only one, curiously, Disney, that allegedly has 2 black parents, and yet we don't see them. Why? I'm just saying.
I think that's enough. I don't think we got to dissect it. I think just let the question.
Just why?
Why? And then we move on because
they always have the complex when it comes to parents. So like,
Yeah,
they do.
They already have a well, because I mean, it's like to a degree you could argue like, okay, but this is probably you probably captured a lot of people's situations in those four parental situations. You know, some people have a single parent home, some people have two parent homes, and I guess some have two parents but they're never there. Sure. And then you also have Chanel, who is essentially a latchkey child because her mother, she literally says at one point, no one is ever home. And she like screams it at the phone. And I'm like, you poor thing, because her mother, it's like, it's weird because it's like her mom is there and she clearly provides her with love and support to an extent. But at the same time, she's also like letting her credit card raise her child.
Which is pathetic.
And I know it's like an age thing too, because she seems like a younger parent as well, so it's more like maybe like a friend relationship as opposed to like, I'm an authority figure.
She's also narcissistic.
She wears her clothes.
You know.
Which definitely shows that as well, because early on in the film, you see like her clothes are like on the floor as Chanel is coming in, and she's like, "What is going on?" And then her mom is like, "I'm trying to look cute," like, or what is she like, hot?
This top is the bomb.
This top is the bomb, and then
she's like, "Mom, say
like,
tight."
It's tight.
Yeah.
So she literally wears like Chanel's clothes because she's trying to be younger. So yes, I think it's very much that, Lisa.
She's
so
very much.
I don't blame her for taking her credit card and.
Oh yeah, no. I was like, Chanel was not really wrong in this situation.
She really wasn't, and she's
also the 14-year-old. You were the adult.
Right.
Yeah. Honestly, and she has a picture of herself, a big ass picture of herself.
Multiple.
And I didn't see any other pictures of her kid. So there's some sort of narcissism there. You know what I mean? Some self-obsession that she needs to work through. Also, I don't really know how I feel about how they portrayed Dorinda's adopted family because, you know,
foster family.
Foster family. Because fostering, you know, first of all, if you don't know anything about the adoption and the foster care system, please look it up.
Yeah.
It is crazy. And I feel like, you know, having it be, you know, okay, the superintendent's, you know, door is in the alleyway, and then you just see all these kids running up and down and breaking all these things. Like, foster kids aren't bad kids.
Did they say they had 10 kids in the house?
Yeah.
Yes. And there's 10 kids, and it's like, yes. Well, then also there are people who believe that people foster a lot of kids for the money.
Yeah.
And to give this, you know, idea that they're living in some type of like wild home where it's like, no, kids are kids. You know what I mean? It's a great thing that, you know, to open up your home to foster children. And clearly Dorinda, she didn't want for any, you know what I mean? She just wanted her dance lessons. She worked for it. That was a great thing. But I was like, y'all could have portrayed this a little better.
Yeah, and the deep shame that she has, Jasmine, you were saying that earlier too, when we sort of just like turned it off. You were saying, you know, or during the film, that deep shame that she clearly has in relation to her situation in relation to like her friends who are in theory supposed to be her close friends, which at 14 I can understand. It makes sense in that way, but at the same time, like I think that there is something very deep and very important that would be nice. It would be nice if it was shown that it's a good thing to work for something that you want.
Yeah.
Like it's a good instinct to have when you're a kid already, that if I want something, I'm going to work for it. And I do think that that is something that we do see white actors do. You know, we do see it with white kid stories. It's like, think of like, you went, like we saw it, you know, in Brink and things like
he
that,
works like 3 jobs.
Exactly. Like, all right, that's great. You're going to go out and get a job and get it yourself, you know, but when it's recontextualized in an urban environment with foster kids, it's suddenly we don't get to see that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's
shameful. Like, it's shameful that she's working because she wants to take classes. Like, no, you should have a work ethic. And yes, a lot of working class children do help their family members work, whether they own a restaurant or they're, you know, just are selling fruits on the side or doing whatever. Like, you help them. It's very common, and it's not anything shameful. You build up a great work ethic, but it's only when, you know, it's an urban setting, or, you know, the kid is poor, or, you know, they are a minority. And I bring up a Netflix film. I'm forgetting the name. It was recent. It's a dance film. Basically, it takes place in like Wisconsin. And the little black girl, she's working at the dance studio to earn her lessons, but her mom doesn't know because her mom is a waitress, and so she works long hours, and she's lying to her mom about it. And it's like, why should she feel, be ashamed that she's doing this? Her mom is working an honest job. She's working. I mean, the level of exploitation by the dance, company owner is a little questionable. You know what I mean? 12-year-olds shouldn't be doing taxes and bookkeeping.
So insane.
Yeah.
12-year-olds shouldn't be doing taxes.
It's
That's
so questionable. But I'm like, there's nothing shameful about working. And like, no, in a perfect, utopia. No, children shouldn't have to work to do these things. But in real life, I don't think it's a bad thing.
No, and I think it's also very normal. Somewhat what Nina is saying. Like, I don't know if it necessarily happens. I mean, I'm sure it does happen here as well. But like, I know, like in a lot of places here in the U.S., it's normal for kids to get like a job.
Yeah.
When you're like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
You know,
New York
like
City has SYEP, summer youth employment.
Yeah.
You're supposed to
Once
work.
you get 14,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
honestly,
You get them papers and you.
They need to learn to work because then you end up with coworkers who don't know how to work, and then you're sitting there like,
Girl, say it. I mean,
really, they don't have any work ethic. They don't know how to work. They don't know how to actually be disciplined to work for that many hours a day and actually do their work. And it's like, well, maybe if you worked a little bit as a child, you wouldn't be struggling
this
so
would be
much.
such an adjustment.
Yeah, and maybe honestly they don't even struggle because guess who ends up doing their work?
promoted.
Other people,
Right.
and then they get promoted.
Right.
Scams.
Right.
whole
I think,
scam.
and speaking of that, I feel like we should go into the music side of this. I know one of
Listen, the
The
music
music is still great.
bangs.
Still
It is
great.
the soundtrack is
Dorinda
so
still
fucking
didn't
tight.
offer anything to the vocals.
but she did it. She gave us a cute, I
Was
gotta
she-
do what I
was
gotta
she
do.
the dancer? Because her
What
move,
was she the dancer?
she was giving
That's
us
the
Julia
real
Stiles from Save
question.
the Last Dance. Let's be honest.
That's cute.
Or Jessica Alba from Honey. They tried to
Oh
really do
no, not Jessica Alba.
and a 1 and a 2 and a 3
That
and
is
a
a
4.
deep
There was a lot of arm movement.
There was a lot of arm
That body
movement.
attempt was.
A lot of pop locking.
She really,
Yeah.
Dorinda kept throwing in these arabesques. Like, girl, I'm sorry. Any dancer who's
She
been
loved
dancing,
flipping, too.
Yeah. I wouldn't even call it a flip. She literally did
a cartwheel. That's what it was.
It was a no-hands cartwheel.
Yeah.
And it was
doing a
like,
cartwheel.
okay, girl, you're throwing these, but that's a basic thing that all little dancers learn to throw if they're in dance class. And it's like, you weren't even giving me somersaults, no double tucks, nothing. You were giving me nothing.
She wasn't even giving us the moves that we got and gotta kick it up. Like
Exactly.
we just
Yeah,
have to say, like,
it just really
they
was
were at least
not.
giving us some moves in that
Yeah.
one.
We got more from, the Toros, bring it on. They were giving us a little, like, at least some hip action.
Yeah, Dorinda was
just
not giving
stiff.
us that.
Yeah.
And I think, and I think even in that, like, I'm not sure if everybody knows this. I feel like it kind of came out like a year or two ago, but like that Cinderella wasn't actually a song written for the Cheetah Girls, but it was actually they took it from the Swedish band called Play. But nobody knew this. So everybody just thought it was a Cheetah Girls song, I think, until like a couple years ago. Like, I think when it came out, Play like said some stuff a little bit, but like, how are you gonna go against the global behemoth that is Disney?
Also, who was trying to listen to anything coming from Sweden? Like, literally, let's be honest.
People like ABBA and 18s.
Which is an
18s.
extension of ABBA. Let's
Well,
be honest
yeah.
about that. And didn't that Red Balloons? No, were they German?
That they were German.
Never
we
mind
looked them
that.
up. She said that Red Balloon.
Really, let's be honest. Where America's really trying to care what was coming out of Sweden. No.
No.
So even if they would
Yeah,
have said
and
anything,
I
where
will
were they
also
going to
say,
post it? Black Planet? Like,
this is also the period of time where, like, we are now learning that none of the music
was real.
Like,
Nothing was real.
none of the people. There are many a pop star. You know who you are. I'm not gonna call y'all out by name, but those vocals ain't yours. We ain't never heard.
Jasmine.
We ain't never heard your voice a day in our lives.
Excuse me, Selena, J-Lo. We know you have session singers, and we know that those vocals aren't mixed properly. Shame on your producers, because I know y'all can hold the tune.
I'm just saying. So, like, you know, it was a time where you could
That was
really
a
get
common
away with
thing.
it. Ain't nobody was gonna
But I
say
do
nothing.
think they actually get into that idea of like theft in the music industry in this film.
Yeah, ironically enough.
Like ironically
Because they're
enough,
stealing other
it
things.
comes into the film because most of the struggle of the film is that they're trying to get a record label producer to notice them. He does, and then he's like, okay, so like I like the idea of you guys together, but I actually want to make you something completely different. Which I feel like happens a lot in music, and especially used to happen a lot during this time where they would literally like, I mean, I don't know if people remember when Jhené Aiko first came out, they called her Little Fizz's cousin.
Oh yeah.
And they're not related.
They're not.
They're not related at all.
She's actually related to the other boy band member, Omarion, but not through marriage, just because she has a beautiful little girl with his brother
yeah.
who's also
Orion.
Yes. Also fine. But look at Pink. Pink had her R&B stage.
Oh,
Everyone
people thought
Pink
she was
half
light-skinned?
black.
Yeah.
She came, here you go. Look at it's simple. Literally, I thought Pink was black, and I was like, ooh, your girl's hella light, but you know, maybe she's Creole. You know what I mean?
They did that with John B too. I saw the unsung.
Christina Aguilera's Dirty, her little stripped thing. They do it. Justin Timberlake had his too.
Yeah.
All these pop stars have their little, you know, R&B black
brand.
black brand moments, and it's very common. But I will say shout out to Disney or the writers of the script for including Galleria's mother talking about getting the contracts and being like, well, we will see after. She already started scratching things.
Yep. She was like, nope.
She redlined that contract. And then she was like, and then I'm going to have my lawyers thoroughly go through this and make some revisions. And I'm like, that's such an important thing because even today, it's so crazy to hear about artists who are in these contracts with their record labels or their management companies. And these contracts and they're still having issues and they don't own their masters and like they don't have fair deals. And during that time, I mean, that would be coming off the heels of, you know, I think the world learning about how TLC got scammed by Pebbles and how they were broke.
And L.A. Reid.
Yeah, and how they were broke. I think that was also this was 2003, right?
Yeah.
So this was right at the beginning of JoJo's career,
Yep.
who ultimately got sidelined by
Blackground, right?
Blackground, Aaliyah's cousin.
Yeah.
That was all, and how she basically, you know, a lot of these artists were getting big and then being like, well, I'm actually broke. We're all thinking, well, we all bought CDs.
Yeah.
How are you broke, right?
Who got that money?
Who got that money? Like, you're living this lifestyle, but then you're declaring bankruptcy. And, of course, we didn't know what it was, but our parents, you know, child.
There it goes again.
There it goes again.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I think it was important that they showed her mother at least some sort of parental supervision over the children. Just being like, you know, you shouldn't accept this. And I think that's also part of why Galleria herself is so headstrong. And she has, like Jasmine said, you know, earlier, she has like such a strong sense of self and identity that like it's like nobody can shake it. Like the moment that Jackal is like, I'm gonna put you guys in masks, which also the metaphor of I'm literally going to mask 4 women of color. But
3 question mark.
3.
Yeah.
Well, in real life, Sabrina Bryan is
in
actually half Latina.
Yes.
But
the character.
But the character.
Yes.
The 3. But he's going to mask these young women. And when that happens, Gallery is immediately like, no. Why? What?
And change your sound. We recorded your voices for you. Like, you know, we already made a sound for you. You have to lip sync. We're gonna cover your faces. We're gonna mask you. We're gonna take your voice away.
Yeah.
You know, it's all that Little Mermaid criticism.
And even the concept like global get down, it's like what will appeal globally as opposed to in the U.S. or keeping their sound and what even caught his attention in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's it's just one of those things that I'm like, it was important to just showcase, and you know, just show like the idea of like, I feel like that's always the issue with artists is like, am I going to sell out?
Yeah.
Like, and especially at this time, that was a really big thing. I think that's kind of lessened now. Like, I feel like if most of the
I
artists,
think you still see it.
You still
well,
see
no,
it.
but I mean, like, in the fact that, like, people don't mind if you do, like, commercials now, and, like, the commercialization of everything now is so accepted and expected. Like, that's just changed. Whereas if Travis Scott had this, like, McDonald's deal in 2001, people would have been like, no.
Mary J. Blige,
just literally just
She
no.
was she was singing about
When she was singing about this crispy chicken.
Are you?
And we were all just like, and now
Crispy
hindsight,
fried
that was
chicken.
great. That was Mary Girl. That was a great deal.
Right.
You should have never been ashamed about singing about chicken because you got your coins.
She
At the end of
did.
the day, you were able to buy at least 5 or 6 new pairs of thigh-high boots, and you will forever be our iconic auntie. But now I feel like people do still sell themselves out, but I think it's so easy, especially as young people, to see the money. And then you just see the money and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be rich.
Mm-hmm.
Chanel was like, yeah, I went shopping because I thought it wouldn't matter because I was going to sign that record deal and we'll be rich. But it's like, girl, you used her credit card. Credit card bills are due the very next month. So you were going to get this money in 30 days?
Right.
Yeah.
In what world
was that ever going to happen?
Yeah, and they were willing to just sign the contract away and just be like, oh, okay, whatever. He knows what he's doing. And it's like, you cannot have faith. You know what I mean? Lin Whitwell said, your day, my day, a snake is still a snake.
Right.
And that has been something that has been true to time since the Romans.
Yeah. Before that, girl.
Well,
you better throw all the way back. We talking Sumer in this bitch.
Yeah, like Mesopotamia, like a snake is still a snake. And it's so important to recognize that and not get, blinded by all the glamour. These girls were really gonna put themselves in these goofy masks.
Foolish.
Like
Not
Chanel was gonna be a seal. Chanel the seal.
No.
Or
Aqua was the wet seal because water.
Yes. Aqua was
Chanel
gonna be a seal.
was the snow
Mountain
leopard.
lion. Oh yes.
And they were gonna sing, we are all around the world where we stop nobody know. Like really, you sound like a Tamagotchi pet.
When they write their own songs.
Yeah.
So there was
no, not
Galleria.
they.
Yeah.
Galleria.
We can get into that.
And we do gotta have here's the thing.
We need to have a reckoning
Our
about
Galleria was misrepresented and wrongfully villainized in
for
this.
sure. And I will say, just real quick off of that, obviously leading into this, in particular, I think I was trying to figure out while I was watching it, right? Like, why did I have this sort of fond memory of Galleria, even though as I'm watching, I'm also remembering that I didn't like a lot of what her character did in the film. Yeah, she was 14 and a bad friend. Like, that's all it was. Like, but
and she hated poor people.
Hated is a strong word. She didn't have the.
She said, "Oh, you're gonna need this
deodorant." She was alright. She couldn't communicate. She's not the most empathetic person in the world. But as I was watching it, I was trying to figure out, but why do I have this weird dual very fond memory of her coupled with this knowing that oh, there's something about this that doesn't taste right or that I don't necessarily like. And I think what you both were saying about her self-assuredness, I feel like that's what hit on the head for me, is that's the representation that I clocked onto. And in this, Justice for Galleria portion that we are about to get into,
# Justice for Galleria
that was the thing that I took from that. At the end of the day, she didn't go about it the right way, and that's said to her multiple times by her mother and her, her friends, mentor, her friends and her mentor, her boo, all of them. They say it to her that, you gotta, watch your mouth and watch how you talk to people and watch, how big your head gets about you being right. You could be right, but you don't gotta say it like that.
Yeah.
But what I did sort of take away with and walk away with that was very important, was this sense of she's so strong in who she is, in what she knows is right, and she'll walk that path and she won't waver from it. And I think that was the thing that stayed with me very deeply positively about that character. So
yeah.
Galleria
knew who she was, and she knew what she believed in, and she honestly, our feminist queen. But I mean, I will say that their communication in this movie was great.
Yeah.
Even Chanel, who was a little timid to go, to her best friend that she's known and be like,
you guys know. And I would also, sorry, I would just add really, just for the, I would also just add quickly that I also think that is something that we see her sort of directly get through her mother. There's a through line there.
Yeah.
And I mean, Lynn Whitfield for so many reasons, but like, I am always here for a black mother and daughter who have it together and who are like past, like, I'm so used to seeing a tragic telling of the black mother-daughter tale. And in my literal experience of living, that's much less common than the really strong bond, the really true passing on of torches that happens. And this is an example where, like, you see that. And I appreciate that.
Mama Cub. She really was in that cab. Like, I always tell you, wear sneakers and then bring your heels in the bag. And
Right.
it's like, these are the type of lessons that we're getting from our black moms, Disney. Not, I don't know where y'all get these tragic storylines from. And I'm sure they exist. I know they exist. But I'm saying that's not the only ones. You know what I mean? We're getting these
the
stories.
demonization of black mothers in the crack epidemic. That's where it's coming from.
That, you know what I mean? Like, or or playing hosts to terrible boyfriends. Like, oh, no.
Yeah,
the whole
They're very much both have it together, and they're very much like they have a good relationship, but it's also very much mother and daughter.
Yeah.
Like,
not friends.
it's like we have a good relationship and we can communicate, but at the same time, I'm your mother.
Yeah.
Like, there's no confusion about that.
I'm not one of your little friends.
Literally.
But yeah, in terms of Justice for Galleria, Homegirl wrote all the songs.
She wrote all of them.
She had all the vision. She named them. She made sure that they had the outfits
produced
together.
them. She played the piano.
Listen.
She recorded the demos. She was her own session singer. Let's talk about this.
Saying I'm the co-founder or
Right, because they get on her about it over and over again. They're like, well, you keep trying to take credit for everything, and it's like, well,
she does
if you look at the material.
80%
and didn't the Cheetah Girls exist before Dorinda and Aqua came
Yes,
on?
it was only just Chanel and Galleria for years.
And I'm sure that Galleria made Chanel do things.
Right.
She seems like that type of child.
No, she was a domineering
who was
child.
like, we're playing this
Because I hate
game.
the word bossy, so she was just domineering.
Is that better?
I don't know. She was.
Galleria also she branded them.
Yeah,
she did.
Girl literally was songwriter, producer, stylist. She was their
choreographer.
Yeah, I'm sure she was doing the choreography.
She mixed everything. Like, come on. She was that girl. And therefore, they should not have been mad when she put herself in the front cover because she was and called herself the founder because she is doing the work.
Yeah.
Now, in this day and age, imagine an artist like that existing. She would be able to control all her masters, own the rights to the publishing.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have to work. I mean, record labels are always going to be on top of you for your work and criticize it. But she really would have been raking the money in, and she would not be like these other girls lost in the sauce, having to use songwriters and not own their publishing and everything. And I feel like they really were haters.
No,
especially Dorinda #1 because she couldn't sing, so she wasn't even adding vocals. And then Chanel was just a hater because she really wanted to be top girl, and she tried to be top girl
that 5 seconds
for like literally 5 seconds. And then Aqua and Dorinda quickly shut that down.
Right. And then you had Chanel, who I think she kind of knew when Galleria was listing all the things that she does, she was like, you act like we didn't do this together. Like, I wasn't doing a freestyling and doing all the
and
backup.
doing the hooks or something.
Yeah, back up.
Back up. That's what you need to do. Back up. Like, that's it. Like, yeah, Chanel, you had your little runs. But that was it. You weren't doing the song was already designed, and then you came in.
Yeah.
This was
kind
literally
of like Brandy and Monica, the boys.
This was Diana Ross and the Supremes. That's how I'll like equate it. Like it's like there's Diana. Not saying Diana was writing her songs, so I don't think she was. But like
that's like listen,
yo, we can't make all the pop stars mad.
No.
They have so much power.
This is Brandy. This is Brandy versus Monica. This is Brandy and Monica on The Boy's Mind. I got into arguing with a friend last versus I love me some Gunica. But with The Boy Is Mine, people don't know that Brandy wrote that song and then it was produced and it was recorded before Monica was on it. So it's supposed to simply be a Brandy song. And then Brandy was listening to it like, oh no, like this could be...
We need somebody else.
We need somebody else. Like this would be hot if it was a back and forth. And she was like, Monica's super talented. They basically kind of had the same career, like started out really, really young, producing bomb music. And that's why we got the iconic gem that is The Boy Is Mine. But Brandy did write this, you know what I mean? Brandy wrote the song. Like that's just That's
It
just
is
what
what it
it
is,
is.
yeah.
it was. Yeah.
It
No,
is what
that's
it
not
is.
any shade to Monica. That's just saying Brandy wrote the song. You have to just acknowledge,
You have
the
to give
song
credit where
where
credit
credit's
is due.
due.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing with Justice for Galleria. It's like nobody ever really gave her credit, but she
Yeah.
really was doing everything. So you're kind of like, I understand to a degree how your head got so big so quickly, because you're like, finally I'm being noticed
Yeah.
for all of this work. It's finally paying off this like 14 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like that was definitely a big part of it.
You know what? And now that I think about it, I really don't understand why homegirl Dorinda was mad, because she was all ready to hop up and be a backup dancer for some Gold Crew World Tour. And you were so gung-ho for that backup dancer title, but yet you were upset when Galleria called you a backup dancer, which is essentially what you were.
Yeah, no, that's always what she was.
How are you gonna be mad? It's the truth. You're a backup dancer there, so then why do you
People
think?
don't like to hear about themselves. You know that.
No, they don't. Yeah. And I feel like another big part of this film was just overall how power corrupts. Like, it's like just the fact that Galleria's head got so big so quickly, which again, founded, but it's like as soon as it did, it went left. And then the same thing happened with Chanel in those like 10 seconds when Jacqueline was like, or we can make you the new lead singer, Chanel. It could be Chanel and the Global Get Down. And she was like, ooh, you know
But
what?
even
That sounds
Jackal-
good.
Even Jackal too, because he went to their same high school, and now he's like part of that entertainment machine of like
Right, of
what
taking
the label
kids.
wants, and
Right. Yeah, no. And
Taking
it's like,
kids. Also, let's
taking
talk about
kids.
that. Because inappropriate, where his, I don't want to call it, I'm not going to go as far as say pedophilia, but the relationship was inappropriate. I mean, they were so close to this old ass, I don't want to curse, these old men.
No, it's fine.
And,
We do that.
with thinning hair.
Yeah, and
so much gel.
when his little sidekick got close to them when he gave the mask and he was purring. What?
Yeah, that was weird.
That was weird. These girls are 14. Like, I thought it was just so inappropriate.
It was very inappropriate. But I also do think that's true of, like, the predatory, nature of the music industry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially, like, what they were calling the urban pop side of the music industry. Like, it's like, I do feel like that can be very true of that, where it's so easy to be predatory, and especially at that time when you have people like a Brandy and a Monica who start when they're like 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know if that like, it does still happen now, but I don't think you have it on, I haven't seen it as much on like the R&B side of things. Anymore, but they really used to be plucking girls out of like random places.
And boys too, like
girls
like,
and boys, and put them in boy bands,
all these things like
and girl bands,
these machines that they used to create.
Even Destiny's Child came out when they were what, 15?
Yeah.
6? Like it's like, so that was very much like a thing of the time, and it's like that's so weird and predatory.
Yeah.
And like I would like to think that we are getting much better as a society about that now. I don't know how actually that is widespread. But if any of y'all who might be thinking about plucking some kids up are listening to this, please don't.
Please
don't.
Or
pluck
if
kids.
you
Leave
or
them
if you
alone.
are an adult, or if you're a kid and you want to work in entertainment, all four of us are working / have worked in entertainment. Let me tell you, there are lots of creeps everywhere.
Yep.
You need to make sure that if you are underage, you need to be accompanied by a responsible, strong adult who's not going to get swayed by money, and
which is hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got
it's really hard. Who has your
it might
best-
not even be mom.
Who
Like,
who
might
has
have to
your
be
best
somebody
interest in
else.
heart? Who, honestly, I realize this is hard, but if they have, if they're smart, you don't need a college degree to be smart. But if they need, just have some type of idea. And before you sign anything, before you do anything, make sure there's a contract, and then make sure you get a lawyer to sign that
Non-affiliated lawyer.
Non-affiliated.
One that nobody that
Go
recommends.
find one.
I don't even care if you call him fucking Chelino and Barnes. Like somebody else.
Gloria,
Legal
100-888-8888.
Listen, I'm sure they will look over contracts and be able to tell you something. Like,
do not take any legal advice or legal personnel offered by the person that you're trying to have a contract with, and get it reviewed. It's worth the money.
Yes.
Just like how Lynn was like, she was marking it off immediately. I will tell you that every contract that you will probably get in your life will have to be marked, especially in entertainment, will have to be redlined and marked immediately, just because their whole goal is profit.
Yeah.
They do not care about you. They don't care about anyone but the bottom line. And so at the end of the day, everything is always made to get them profit. And that's simply it.
Yeah, no. It's just be aware, and if you are the adult in the situation, always be there with your child.
Be the link.
Be at the recording studio too. Like,
yes,
watch your children.
Yeah, all the things. Because I'm sure if Lynn went to the second meeting when they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do all these masks,"
she would have shut that down real quick.
Not. Like, we're all going. It's not like she wouldn't have. Galleria left the girls there. Which, honestly, I was like, ooh, this is rough, because even in the first meeting, Aqua and Dorinda's dumb selves.
They were just giggling. Giggling,
oh my God,
giggling.
Hot sauce. Like, you know what I mean? And it was like, are you really falling for the charms of this creep?
But it's very easy, because you have, like, a lot of people in that industry are just... that's how they get by.
Yeah.
Is solely on charm and being able to talk people into doing things that they want them to do.
And it's through, like, shining these bright lights in your face,
Yeah.
Like,
right.
look at all that's
and money.
possible.
Right.
But, like, that's the thing about a bright light, it blinds. Don't look directly
don't look directly in the sun.
It's all connected, y'all. Like, just don't take it at face value, Go underneath, like, look at what's behind somebody's motivations. Because...
Yeah, and I feel like further to that, and just in, like, the wider entertainment industry, it is nice to see what, like, young girls, or what's supposed to be young girls as they're on screen, portrayed with, like, real bodies.
Real faces.
Yeah, and, like, the makeup is not crazy in this one. Like, it's pretty toned down.
The hair looks...
Yeah, the hair, like...
The hair was damn on point.
The hair, Galleria and Chanel's hair.
Extensions were blended.
Yes.
I was walking around with my little 10-year-old perm trying to figure out how to make my hair look like Galleria's. It obviously...
And all the, like,
it was not that
star
long.
earrings. Like, it was definitely a time. But it very much, like, fit, like, what I think a 14 to 15-year-old girl during that time period would be, like, playing with makeup and doing, and, like, it wasn't overdone. But then just also that, like,
jewelry.
Raven Simone has always just kind of been, like, like, a curvy girl model, and I think one of the few ones that have actually been on Disney.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely, I was a busty child.
Yeah.
It's the best thing.
I
got them early, and they came big. Like, they were just here. And I know I always personally felt... not seen, but I liked seeing Raven on TV. It made me feel accepted. And I know that this was in particular a time when I think we were coming off of sort of the very skinny 90s.
Yeah.
And I just remember sort of around this time, like entering into middle school, all of the conversation around eating disorders. And, they weren't having them with boys, and they should have been as well, but there was a very large focus, at least in my schools, both public and private, that I went to in that time period, about, like, making sure that girls had, like, a good sense of body image. And it seemed like everybody was worried that people were going to become anorexic or develop, like, really deep dysmorphia issues centering around their bodies. So I think in rewatching this, it's sort of, again, a thing of, this is something that I probably responded to that I didn't clock immediately as a child, but definitely sort of probably helped keep me from going down a certain route, because I had the representation of someone. And I know that Raven has gone on record saying that she did still struggle with, what she was allowed to look like for Disney Channel, and that has caused obvious psychological trauma in her life.
She was saying, I feel like she said, if I remember correctly, that a lot of her clothes on that So Raven had to be tailored to fit and hide her boobs, and that the size of her boobs and how busty she was a concern for, like, Disney execs, especially because she is a child on a child's show on a child's channel. So it was really nice. Honestly, it was so refreshing to just see
kids look like kids, and you know, no lip fillers, no overlining the lips, no dramatic makeup. Like, we get it, we were kids once too, you know. I totally understand, but it was definitely really nice to see her. Although I will say, even in this film, she was covered up. Especially compared to the other characters. Like, Chanel would wear like the little tube top and show her. I don't think we ever saw Raven's shoulders.
Yeah, she had that vest, but it was covered still. She had the shirt underneath it, like a long sleeve shirt.
Yeah, she wears a lot of coats. If you start paying attention to her wardrobe, you notice she wears a lot of coats, a lot of jackets,
and like full
you know, long sleeve t-shirts. Even
like,
though
they're really trying to hide the hourglass shape of her body
and stuff. Their bell bottoms. Like, it was just very it was very much them hiding her rather than actually. Not showing, complimenting her figure in something that was child appropriate. Which is
definitely possible to do because there are many children. You know what I mean? Like, kids go through puberty. There are many kids. I was a kid who was 10 and had a figure like that, and I had child appropriate clothing on still. It's
completely possible. I just don't think they made any effort.
You don't have to put her in like V-necks or anything, but you can make her. Like,
she can wear crew necks. Like, there's no reason why.
You can show her arms. Like,
and it was crazy that like the one moment that they actually were like all equal in terms of clothing was the end.
When they were in sweatsuits.
When Aqua didn't have on that skirt, and Dorinda finally gave up the 2 belts.
She still had a belt. She still had a belt in that tracksuit.
She wore those things. She was
committed.
She got rid of the striped sleeves at least.
Thank
God.
She got rid of the striped sleeves. That's true.
But those 2 things. But I was like, oh wow, they're all in the same, you know, Juicy Couture-esque.
It really was.
Velour,
Cheetah Couture.
Cheetah Couture, velour sweatsuit. That ending,
which is my favorite part, specifically in relation to that sweatsuit, is you brought up Jasmine's rewatching. Like, how did they are all in separate places doing separate
things, and they hadn't been talking to each other.
But they all happened to be wearing their individually colored cheetah print matching velour sweatsuits that day.
Right.
So that they could meet up and be perfectly in sync for their television debut.
For their music video.
On the news.
Right.
Make it make sense.
It doesn't. I mean, from the beginning that the end starts off. Like, it's just
it really... With Raven getting, walking Toto, and then, her being like, oh, they really went ahead without me, and letting her dog run off the leash. And what I also don't get.
She had the leash. I'm confused.
She had the leash.
She had it, and then she was like, Toto!
Yeah,
and then he ran off
and drops the leash.
But here's the thing. Remember when Chanel was sleeping over at Galleria's place in the room, and her mom was like, all right, now, Toto, be a good example. Go to sleep. And he literally got up the bed and went and sat down. So then how's the dog now not have manners and is running, no discipline, running? Yeah, and then she bumped. That's when we knew this was a different time. She bumped into a
New York
NYPD white male police officer. How made him spill his hot coffee and his donut, and then he literally was just shaking it off like, oh my God. And then she's still running, and then the cops start approaching her, and that's where we're like, all right, this is realistic. And then they're like, she's like, my dog, and then they're like, oh my God, and then they run to the hall.
I was like, that's not how that ended.
They would have never let her.
She got arrested.
Like that.
The best case scenario, she was taken down.
Because this is post Amadou Diallo, so we already know
what happened.
Yes, and this is post 9/11.
This is NYPD as Army. That's the state we're in.
Yeah, they've already been militarized.
On high alert.
Yeah. So where was this?
They weren't your kind, friendly local.
This was Toronto PD.
This was exactly what this was. Cause girl, what? But the reaction of them, like the dog being stuck in, oh my God! Now that's really realistic because we know.
People love dogs.
Yeah, people do love their dogs.
They love their dogs. That they are their kids. They are a family member, a treasured one. So the fire department being called. That's very, very.
The newscast, the whole news team coming down. The entire city stopping, the power being cut off to
For
the
the dog.
city to save the dog. I wish somebody would.
And even the whole thing, somehow this hole was so small. But then the firefighter was able to fit half his body in. And then all of a sudden, after they started singing,
Total just hopped right out.
I was like, how that you can fit a whole... firefighter gear is huge. You fit his whole body in, and yet you somehow couldn't grab this dog. Y'all didn't have it. No one caught... And you realize that animal control was nowhere.
Nowhere to be
never
found.
Never found. Yet
Never
they have
called.
the pole with the leashes. No animal control. Where's ASPCA? But yet you have the firefighters and the police and all these people gathered around.
Yeah, I don't understand how, like, so the reason that the school, everybody at the school, like, because they're having the talent show and the power cuts out, and the reason why everybody at the school knows to come, and, like, is because it cuts directly back on when the power comes on. There's a cut directly onto their screen of
the
Gallery
news.
Alive, like,
Yeah.
being like, the dog!
Which how? It wasn't on the screen beforehand.
That makes no
Like,
sense.
The
in
white-
what world?
Her romantic, her boo, Derek, was rapping with his black
About the hip hop
nation
nation.
and being, not being colorblind.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, the lights went off, and then it opened up to this news cut. Which how? That's not how AV works. I don't know.
That's not how AV works at
to
all.
feed in a live signal, live cable signal,
Into a high school gym.
high school gym onto a projector. That's
That was
not how that works.
off. Like, it's just like none of it adds up.
tracks.
And then it
None of
basically
it
just
tracks.
turns into a music video.
It
Yes.
really does.
Like, it stops being a film
They get
at that
backup
point.
dancers.
Because
Yeah.
they all just start singing together and they do
They give Dorinda the broom.
Right.
Yeah.
They gave the
it all
poor
away.
foster girl the broom. The only action with the actual broom were her sweeping. Girls.
It's a whole mess. But at the same time, great. That final number
It's
is
great.
fantastic. Like, still rewatching it.
Iconic.
brought-
They're
It's
still
great.
Cheetah
it was
sisters.
a basic level of joy that I have
I,
arguably not felt in a very long
well,
time.
they don't even do, music videos like that now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they're not giving us, they gave us choreography. We had matching outfits. They gave us angles.
Yep.
They had a storyline.
There was a dance
Yeah.
break.
There was
But-
a dance break.
There's dance
That
break.
used to be a really big thing, kids.
Yeah, it really was.
Yes.
Remember the time.
Yeah, remember the
Remember
time.
the time.
And they gave us everything, and it was so cute. Now, I don't understand how they once said talent show when they interrupted it and they weren't even a part of it.
But we'll...
Everyone came out to see it.
Yeah.
Everyone came out to see it, so
Everyone saw it.
so
Yeah.
obviously.
No.
How did his guitar play? Jasmine brought it up.
Right.
That was real. It's not plugged
he
into
plays
an
an
amp.
electric guitar.
Electric guitar, and he's just standing on top of the little construction hole.
That's suddenly
And
a
it's like,
stage.
and I'm literally like, it's not plugged into an amp. That's not how that works. That's not how that
It's
works.
impossible.
Like, in the middle of a New York City street, you're not. No
That's
one's
not how
Cheetah
that
Girls
works.
projected on the side of the building.
It literally becomes a
Bright
music
lights.
video.
It's
like,
it's so
like you're
deeply
out
absurd.
of. You have to suspend all belief
You
by that
really
point.
do.
Yeah.
It's
You
just
just have
like
to-
it's gone.
You have to enjoy it for what it was.
Yeah.
And they knew they could get away with this. I wonder what our parents thought about it.
Yeah, because I'm sure they had to like sit. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if my parents ever had to sit through it because like I had very much free reign with television, so I don't know if they ever actually sat down and watched any of it with me. But I imagine as a parent watching this, there was a certain point where you're just like, I don't. And you look down at your child and they're fully in it.
Like
They have no questions.
they're enraptured.
And you're just like, huh, okay. I guess.
I feel like it was overall just like it's at least you're going for black girls at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
That's how I feel
like at least
when
my
I
kid's
watch-
singing girl power walking down
Yeah,
the street.
I mean, when I watch kid shows now with my nieces and nephews, I'm sometimes like the Doodle Bops and all these other things. I'm like, what?
The Doodle Bops.
Yeah, it's the Doodle Bops. It's the Doodle Bops.
I do not know this. I have no
Yeah,
interaction with
like-
children.
Yeah, you sometimes have to. There are moments where you're just like, what?
Literally,
And I'm
what's
like, you know what?
happening?
This is not for me. This is not for my adult brain. These kids will eat this.
Yeah, they
It's
look
Yeah.
like watching JoJo Siwa and being like,
Oh,
I do not.
I just watched one video and I was like, this is enough for me.
She's so talented and she's so like,
I appreciate, she is fully into this brand. She's committed, and we need someone who's not trying to scale up but scale down. But I am like, there's just no way I'm watching more than 5 or to 10 seconds of her. Just
right.
It's not geared toward me. I find it very irritating, but I'm very happy she exists and she's making her money doing that. But that's one of those things where I'm like, so you purposely live in a house with rainbows and unicorns and you're screaming and you're bedazzling and throwing glitter, and I'm sitting here like, yeah, I too loved Lisa Frank, when I was young.
Yeah.
But and if you're Gen Z, you don't know what Lisa Frank is.
JoJo.
Yeah, Google. It's the original JoJo Siwa, but a little, cuter. Although Lisa Frank is highly problematic, so please do not purchase any of her stuff.
Oh yeah, read the BuzzFeed article.
Please, yes, no.
About the company. It is wild.
Wild. But yeah, I'm like, our parents probably thought that this movie was good, but like, also what?
They had bad questions. They were like,
they had
this
questions.
don't really
Just like
make
how
sense.
I remember my parents were not trying to buy me the books, and I don't think it's because it was like a bad thing. It was just more like, why do you always just read this kind of like?
Yeah, I was reading
it's
the
seen
pop
as like
stuff.
it's like it's not trash, but like like that kind of thing. But I was also like, I'm 10. Like I don't. I'm not, because I remember the woman. We went to a black bookstore, and when we bought it, and I remember the woman was like, you need to read like Kindred. And I remember thinking
Kindred?
And I've never she told me the story about like, she's like, here's the general plot summary, and I just remember thinking, I don't think I'm old enough for that. Like I think Cheetah Girls is like what I should be reading at the age of 10.
Kindred, she was trying to instill that self-love, that
it was an African black bookstore, like in DC. I would like to put like, so in like 2002 or 3
that sentence
in the Pentagon City Mall.
Okay, because there's a Sankofa one that is.
I'm done. You know what? Tell them the address though. Let them know where to go.
Listen,
we support and promote black businesses.
We do. We certainly
I would say the name of the bookstore, but it no longer exists, unfortunately. But it did used to be in the Pentagon City Mall. Shout out to DC.
Listen, there is. If you are in Washington, D.C., please go ahead and support Sankofa Video Books and Cafe, located right near Howard, the illustrious Howard University, on
HU
2714 Georgia Avenue Northwest. They've been long-standing out here, and they focused on the African diaspora. They support African diaspora artists and authors. So please pump your way down there. Now, in terms of New York, I don't really know of any offhand, but I do know of one that's minority owned in the Bronx called the Lit Bar up in Mott Haven neighborhood. Please go and support. They're great.
They're online at bookshop.com.
Yes.
So no excuse. You can order online because that's what I did.
And in general, you should be buying. I mean, if you're an adult, I think you definitely buy these books for your daughters.
Yeah.
There's always good lessons to be learned, but buy black and buy local. Do not use Amazon.
Yeah.
No, buy black, buy local. Yeah. Buy these books. I do actually highly recommend them. Just in general, also want to give a shout out to Raven Simone for just.
You are
as a person, and
and you have been since you were 3,
which is
crazy. Like
she had a rap album. She did a whole rap album as a child.
Listen, and she's still being iconic.
Yeah, she has that role on Blackish playing Andrea's sister.
Yeah, she's playing Andrea's sister.
For that live she did with Keely.
Yeah.
She's even on, I love that so she was funny. On, I recently, don't ask me why in particular, but I've recently been watching Casey Undercover.
Oh, she's on there?
Which is great. She plays like the scientist who created the robot sister, kid sister, Judy. Okay. Which is a great little role for her. It's very cute, like...
And she's got Raven's Home.
Yeah, Raven's Home.
They revitalized. She's done the best revitalization of a children's thing
fantastic.
From the early 2000s that I've seen thus far.
So just like a shout out,
she's
like
on what daytime show is she on?
She used to be on The View. She's not on there anymore.
Yeah, she's making her coins. I think on ABC during early quarantine. Being with her friends and watching TV shows and like making comments. So another way. Yeah.
Yep. One of the big 4.
So,
but yeah, shout out to Raven.
You, girl. We love your coins. Some comments in the past. Dicey. You gotta call it out. We love you. This is a
safe space.
It
But
is.
she
Yeah, at the end of
is
the day.
love.
truly an icon, and she deserves. Also, more
Yeah,
people
man.
need to listen to her. This Is My Time album. I was obsessed as an 11-year-old.
I actually do remember the album.
I was obsessed with Raven.
She could sing.
She
could
could
dance. Like she
Yeah.
could act. Like she
She was
really
a triple
did it
threat.
all.
Yeah,
Like a
and she
true
did
triple
it
threat.
being like black and thick on television.
Yes,
And that
which was an anomaly at that
blew
time.
my mind.
Which, if you
Blew
notice
my
that
mind.
afterwards, all the black girls, Zendaya, I love you, girl. But after that, all the girls on Disney were skinny. They were. There's nothing wrong with being slim. That is a natural body type. However, when every single character is slim, that is a problem because that is not how everybody looks.
Right.
And like afterwards, I feel like Disney skewed so like when I think of like what's the name of the show that Zendaya and Bella Thorne were on?
Oh, got it. Shake It Up.
Shake It Up.
Yeah.
It was such a good show, but they're both very thin. And then I felt like every show after that, every even not only the lead but the supporting, everyone was thin. And I'm like, thank God I'm now at that point in high school I've aged out. You know what I mean? I think the last decom I saw was Lemonade Mouth, and we're thinking like, I'm so happy. And they had one girl, I forget what her name is. She's a singer now, the Asian. She was like kind of thick. I mean, she wasn't skinny. She was like average size. And I remember thinking like, I could not watch Disney Channel seeing all of these thin girls not being thin at all myself, and be able to relate. Like I don't think I would have developed an eating disorder just because my mom would have been like, girl. And at that point I was at boarding school. So I was like able to like go actually see a nutritionist and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Raven was really the last. She was the last.
She's the last of an era.
And you know, the last of like that image being shown and being celebrated.
Yeah, and that whole black like there was an era where, and like we see now like Netflix is capitalizing on that, realizing like, oh, let's bring back Sister, let's bring back Moesha, let's get all of this coin from like all of these shows
like the black TV
that existed
shows.
on the UPNs of
I know which listen,
which were
the late
edgy.
90s.
strong black lead. I'm gonna give it to y'all. Y'all are cute. However, it was brought to my attention, thank you to Twitter, that before Netflix, found it trendy and before Strong Black Lead was created to really push this, that we actually do have, even though BET has failed, in many people's eyes, Aspire TV and My Clio TV, along with
and
TV,
Bounce.
Yep, Bounce and TV One.
Yep.
They do
they've been
programming, and they were streaming the Parkers.
They have them for
and
mad
Sister
long.
Sister, and they've been doing that for a while. So everyone being like, "Oh, Netflix, giving Netflix credit." No.
No, it's just streaming world.
Yeah,
That's
it's
like
just
it's
that it's
finally
streaming.
because I moved off non-streaming. Like I own a Roku, and I don't have Sling because I don't really pay for live TV anymore. So like my access to that has been dubious. Like so, it's finally showing up in the streaming world. But even then, like Girlfriends was on the CWC, for example. Like it was in other places, so that is important, very important
Countess
to know.
Vaughn,
Another, but it was
Countess Vaughn, pipes.
She didn't know. She
was a gorgeous, dark skin, and she
funny.
was
Like literally was the funniest
funny.
part of Moesha.
Like she was short, she was curvy, you know what I mean? And it's like it's so crazy to think that like I don't think they have those even now. Like I don't think kids shows really have characters like Raven Simone.
Or teen shows either, kids and teen.
Well, I
teen
think that's
shows
the thing
that
now is the teen shows now are very white. Like that I can think of because I'm trying to think. I'm just trying to think of like what's the stuff that's on like CW, like Riverdale. That's not a, like it's like, but that's a teen show.
In theory, there was a
They had Josie and the Pussycats, and she was barely on there.
But in theory, there's a Latinx representation on there with Veronica.
Camila?
Sure, I don't know the
She's
actress'
Brazilian.
name.
Yeah, if you want to.
But
yeah,
I, as someone who watches Riverdale because I can't stop, it's like crack. I really wish I could. I don't enjoy it, but I can't stop.
And yeah, technically
I would
KJ
say
Apa
it's
is
dubious.
half Samoan, but you can't.
Also,
he's
that
white
the
passing.
whole redhead situation on that doesn't need to it.
It's
Everything
yes,
about it is hard.
but it's not like a show for people. Like
they're
it is
not visibly.
that. Yeah,
people
they are all
of
white
color.
passing.
Same thing with
And it's not
Netflix.
about. It's not about like the difference with these shows is that they were. And the reason we could identify with them so clearly was that they were, like Sister, they're in Detroit.
Yeah, they're
You know
very
what
much
I mean?
in Detroit.
And you know it is Detroit, right? It's not Chicago.
Yeah,
it's
no,
Detroit.
it's Detroit.
And
Detroit.
and you know they're in Detroit. They go to a predominantly black or like very diverse public school.
Right.
Everybody in the cast is like they are growing up in the black neighborhood.
Same. Alicia's
right?
in Leimert Park.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
in
like,
LA.
And you're seeing all of these stories play out. They are just general sort of teen stories, and they follow all of the like regular tropes, but they're
Even
being
the
played
Proud
out
Family.
with
Yeah.
black children.
Yeah.
In black spaces,
And
and
we just
that
don't
as a
have that.
holistic view is lacking.
And
Yeah.
blackness and black issues are talked about without being the primary focus. Because
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, newsflash, people who are not black, everything about our lives isn't all about just being black.
It's
Like,
not.
have this-
We experience the same stuff.
We too argue with our parents who are a little overbearing and a little controlling, and can't, let the reins go, or, technology incapable.
Right.
You know what I mean? We too deal with breakups and low quality men in New York City. And the subway running late.
She said low quality men in New York
The
City.
subway running late. Eggs. We go through similar issues. We're not living that much of an alternative life. It's just through a black lens. So it's a little different. But honestly, it's very much the same.
Yeah.
They don't have any sort of I think in general though, we don't have anymore any sort of POC show like that, because it's like there's not even like an
Netflix-
Asian teen show. There's
Netflix
not
try, but
they
too
have never
a
have I
color-
ever now.
Well, fresh off the boat. I guess
But
you could
that's
argue
not
the
a
fresh off
teen-
the boat and the blackish. But again, those are shows that are about.
It's about a family.
Or not even that's about family. Those are shows that are about race. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they are
Yeah,
about
but
race. They
they're
are about
linked to it.
ethnicity. They are about
It's not
immigration.
nuanced.
It's
like,
not just you are. It's not it's not the Brothers Garcia
Right.
where everybody just is like Spanish and
Right.
Yeah,
living.
or like
Or they
the,
were
the
Mexican
Wayans
specifically.
brothers.
Yeah, they were Mexican.
Yeah, like it's not.
Yeah.
You're
It's not
missing these
Taina.
shows, you know what I
Like-
mean?
Yeah,
Like
it's
they're
all
bringing it
these
up, and it's like you
cousin
don't need to
Skeeter
talk about it
cousins.
all the time. Like I get it. I'm black.
We're
black.
black. Yeah.
I feel like these shows
We
are
feel
like.
the same way y'all feel about it.
All
We're
right.
like,
We don't want to
get
bring
it,
it. Like
we
we
get
don't want to
it.
always bring it up either.
Literally, I feel like it's kind of like you're black. Do you remember? You're black. Like it's like they're trying to break the fourth wall. It's like I get it. You don't need to talk about it. But even like Netflix, they have a colorism issue because they love these light-skinned
Light-skinned, yeah.
actresses with
There's
this
a
curly
blonde
hair.
girl of the mid-20s, I would say. Like, you remember how
Yeah.
it used to be blonde girls who were like blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls that were everywhere, and they like there was that whole Legally Blonde era where we were seeing that they were more than just pretty faces. I think that the quote-unquote racially ambiguous girl of color who's dark enough to be representation but light enough to not cause any stir and has hair that's curl, curly enough to be recognizable
Right.
by the white population of
don't
America.
get it.
You got a little curl.
That is the new blonde girl of
That's not
Hollywood.
high TV execs, movie people. That's not representation. It's not. We don't want it. If you're going,
we want it. We just want other
want
things as well.
yeah, you want it. I don't want it. I'm
Oh
light
my
skinned
God,
in
please
quotation
don't
marks,
sue us.
and I
They
do.
can't sue us for that. That's our opinion.
I don't want it.
I
I don't want it. I
want
think there needs to be more. You know what I mean? I think at this point we've had our fill.
Yeah.
We've had this be the representation. We do not want it anymore. It is time to it's 2020. You need to be showing a diverse range of shades. The fact that I'm
That's the future of this country.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 27 now, and the fact that I'm now at my grown age learning more about about India and that entire diaspora and the history is crazy. And I'm actually exploring that, the Indian Netflix and their offerings, and I'm like, there should be shows. I mean, to be honest, I can't rely on the U.S. public school education to fill in those blanks and cover it.
Yeah.
So, you got to pick up
Shoot,
the
you
slack.
can't even rely on private school
Well,
education
education
to cover
to
that.
Yeah.
cover that.
Education period.
Yeah.
Like, that's not,
You
that's
have to
not
teach
gonna,
yourself. But it's
yeah,
but a
that's
lot
not-
of that could be explained through if you had entertainment for it. It's that's why I was so happy when Never Have I Ever got on Netflix earlier this
Yeah.
year, because it's we've just never seen that. I know for so many of my Desi friends that meant so much, because they're just I've never seen a Hindu girl on screen. That's
Yeah.
just never been a thing
In
other
America,
than
like
Mindy
in the- yeah,
as a
in the-
kid.
Yeah, in
As a
America.
kid, as
Yeah.
an American kid growing up here and dealing with that and what that's like. You know, and it's like, that shouldn't be your first time in 2020 ever seeing yourself represented in mainstream American society.
Especially when you had a machine that was in theory coming out with, you know, kids learned about rollerblading, kids learned about jump rope as a sport, but they didn't know that there were Hindu children living in America. Like, that's crazy.
Right.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? It's just, I feel like there is so much opportunity, so much, like, space to really
push
run with
the
it.
envelope.
Yeah, push the envelope. And even get back to what we had before. And it's just, I feel like there could be, you know, I really love the work that Strong Black Lead does, and I'm very appreciative of it. And I feel like even outside of just like bringing these shows back, or like bringing new shows that have, you know, Black people in them, I feel like even their extra work in terms of the interviews with Black actors and the podcasts and stuff like that, like it's great. I just think that there is more to be done. You have the money to do it, and not only Netflix, but all of the streaming channels. You know,
all the networks.
Yeah. All the networks.
Everybody can.
You all can, and it's and while I am Black.
Are you? No.
God, am I Black? Am I Black?
What is blackness?
Yes, I'm Black. I'm technically an Afro Latina, but I just say Black because I feel like I'm Black. That's just what it is. I feel like there could, just not only in Black programming, but in all facets. Like, you know, in America, our only or main source of, you know, mainstream culture of indigenous people in America shouldn't be Pocahontas, which the story told was wrong. Yeah. So like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no excuse for that. Like, there's just not. So I think we can really, you know, please someone bring Taina back.
Oh my God.
Please bring Taina
back.
I don't know why
more shows like that. But we need stuff like that. Like, it's like, we just don't have it anymore.
That's how I knew about the Tainos in Puerto Rico. Like, because their name was Taina. And that's how it came. I'm like, something as simple as that, how the name is.
You know what? That's real though.
I feel like that might have been the first time I'd ever heard of like a quinceañera. Like, I don't think I'd ever heard of that.
There's a chance that was true for me as well.
Yeah, because I was like, I didn't have any, when I was that age, I didn't have any Latinx friends. And also we were 8 or 9, like none of us were doing quinces, and none of them had older sisters or you know, like, so it wasn't a thing. And it's like, that's the first time I saw that. And then you just had like a Puerto Rican family living in the, they were the
Queens?
Bronx? Queens? I don't remember.
It was Queens.
But she was somewhere in New York City.
Somewhere in the, like, she was somewhere in the 5 boroughs, but it wasn't Staten Island. So I'm just making that note, okay?
There are people of color in Staten Island.
There are, but
she just was not
north,
there.
very close to the ferry.
Yeah,
right. Like, she just wasn't out there. But yeah, it's like, you need more shows like that, and like the Moeshas and the Parkers and the one-on-ones. Like, it's like, that does matter, and it's so necessary. And we just don't have that like Black teen or even like Latinx teen show.
Remember Jet Jackson?
Yeah, we had Jet Jackson. Even Teen Nick, they used to have a lot
Teen
of
Nick
they
used to do it up, right?
Nick Cannon had his
y'all saw
show.
What Nick did though. Nickelodeon Jr. I feel bad. They're not directly my former employers, but they are allegedly they have copied the visual animations of Hair Love, which was written and produced by Matthew Cherry and won an Oscar this past year. The characters themselves and the storyline are very similar, almost exact.
Mm-hmm.
And it was brought to his attention by people on Twitter who were promoting the show because it is the Nickelodeon show itself is really great, but then I think Nickelodeon like cut the episodes for whatever reasons. But yeah, he himself said that yes, the visuals were strikingly similar.
Because I think the show was going to be called Made by Maddie. It actually got, because of all of this, they ended up canceling it.
Which even just this, like, the fact that it, like, y'all remember Confederate? Y'all remember how Confederate got to the point of having a press release before somebody was like, oh wait, this is a bad idea? It's it's that kind of sort of lack of foresight it would be nice to see
people of color in the room.
Yeah.
Well, here's
knowledgeable people of color, because you know we have a couple.
Here's what's weird about it though, because in my exploits in the entertainment industry, I've I seem to have seen various instances where there are people of color in the room, they're just not listened to. There are people of color in the room, and the people of color say, this is a bad idea, or like, there's nothing about this that makes any damn sense, and then it's ran with anyway. They're just ignored. So I think that there's also a good amount of that as well.
You hire people of color, you need to
listen to them.
But also don't make them your go-to.
Yeah, because listen,
don't make
them
them the
fugazi,
token.
some of them are fugazi. Some of them, they be co-signing.
Yeah, and or also just like, I'm not, like, I am literally not, I am still an individual.
You don't
and
pay
I'm
me
not
to do that.
I can't speak for
hire
my
a diversity.
Oh my God,
Hire a
you're not a
diversity
mouthpiece for
consultant.
the entire
Shocking,
African
no.
diaspora.
No.
Listen, I would like to be a mouthpiece for all humanity. Do you know, I'm pretty sure I could fix this whole damn planet if y'all just gave me the reins. But I recognize how problematic that could be, so I don't pursue that.
Right,
hire a diversity consultant. There are literally people who get paid to do that. Like, that is their job, to go in and be like, yay or nay.
Yeah.
They are paid to do that, therefore they are emotionally and physically and mentally prepared to deal with it. Don't put that on your black, brown coworkers, please.
Yeah.
Unless they have asked.
So I guess all of that to sort of just bring it full circle, and this, when it comes back to, I think, with this movie, ultimately sort of where I end up coming down on it is that it's still great to revisit, and it was still so enjoyable watching again. I loved singing those songs, I loved watching those dances, and like remembering being that little girl with my group of little friends of color and us, doing those dances and singing those songs.
Yeah.
But as great as it was for those reasons, it is still an example of how much work there is to be done.
Yeah.
And that still is
crazy.
True.
I'm thinking about, because then I think there's so much more to be addressed when you watch the rest of the Cheetah Girl movies.
Oh, well,
but then
don't worry, we don't get there.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah, I also realized, I didn't watch Cheetah Girls 3 because
I didn't either. We're gonna watch it for the first time.
I was like,
this
is getting bad. I was like, and Raven's not in 3. I was like,
what's the point?
But didn't they go to Bollywood?
They go to India.
Yeah. So wow, Disney. Wow, I guess I take it back a little bit.
A little bit.
We'll come back in with the review of that. But yeah, no, it is definitely, I think, one thing where the older you get, you start actually realizing the flaws in things. And yeah, there's just always more work to be done. But I will say I am happy that this movie existed at that time, because it did mean a lot. And then also, like, fun fact, Whitney Houston produced it. It was her and Deborah Martin Chase who was like her producing partner.
And that's why the music is so damn good, y'all.
Yes,
I know. And shout out to Deborah Martin Chase.
Yes,
listen,
she does the work.
Go look her up and sing her praises.
Iconic.
You have no idea what she has given you.
She's a dame. Follow her on Instagram at Deborah Martin Chase. DEBRA.
She's great.
Martin.
She has her law degree from Harvard, by the way. Would just like to put that out there, and then just like switched into entertainment.
Yes.
Like never practiced. So just really smart woman. But she was like Whitney's co-producing partner until Whitney passed, and I think now she's like doing her own thing. But I do think that it's like, it just means a lot that it's like one of our biggest stars in general was the one who helped bring this like what is a black movie, or what we identify as a black movie,
who had a black daughter, daughter,
right?
Who would have definitely appreciated. Honestly, also, her daughter loved Cheetah Print. Now I'm thinking about it.
Bobby Christie
was definitely a fan of the books.
Yeah,
definitely ate that up. So I guess with that, I'll just ask, pose a general question. You guys can each answer in turn. Would you show this to your kids?
Almost deaf. Yeah.
I want the monsters, but yeah.
Would you show this to children in your life?
Yeah, to your nieces and nephews.
I would actually show this to my nieces and nephews.
Have they seen it yet?
No, they haven't. Honestly, they run wild on Netflix, but
it used to be on Netflix before Disney Plus started.
Yeah, but I think it would be a good. I mean, I think they might be like, oh, the technology.
What are they wearing?
The phone, but I would definitely show it to them. I think it's an important show that honestly could be used as a lesson for so many things about standing up for who you are, about being empathetic and nice about other people's situations, and class. I think that's there's so many good things that teachers could use this to like impart. Would you show this to your nieces or nephews?
I don't have nephews, so I don't know if they would watch it, but
For your kids.
You can offer it.
yeah, I want them to see it. I think it's really important to see yourself or people who look like you on the screen, and I wouldn't mind like watching it with them and like if they have any questions, answering them and being like, well, that's what it was like.
In
So it was 20
03.
years ago.
I know. It's
Back in my day.
Back in our day.
I was a young whippersnapper.
Yeah, because I don't know, I just find like, I don't know a lot about the TV today, but to me it just like doesn't seem to have the same substance, the things that we watched when we were little. So I definitely want to go back and like watch things again, like Fresh Prince, Girlfriends, all those shows, because
Living Single.
Yeah.
Living Single is
a
a
lot of
different
things went over
world
my
still.
head.
A different world
Always
still
forever.
holds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I wish I was able to really absorb those
I know.
It would have saved me so much.
So much pain and suffering and energy
Right.
expended on things that did not
Didn't
deserve
happen.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I feel like, we all loved it clearly. Would definitely
Yeah.
recommend a rewatch. I think
Yeah.
all of
Yeah,
us would
for
say,
sure.
if
And
you
do
were
it and
thinking
make
about
it
it, watch it.
And make it a thing, because like we did a rewatch with like a group of our friends, and it was phenomenal. We had so much
Yes,
fun
right.
as a crew rewatching it. So I would definitely say do it, and do it as like like I don't know if you can do a Disney Plus party, but
Yeah, y'all can
do it as a
team it all up and then get it on Zoom. And also
Mhm.
because Keely, did say she needs her coins.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not trying to give coins to nobody that threw fried chicken at somebody. That's crazy.
Right.
That's
Dark skin woman.
crazy.
I know the disrespect.
Deep disrespect.
But this is a fun trip,
Trip down memory
Yeah.
lane.
down memory
Yeah.
lane,
And
Yeah.
I do think it would be, like I don't have a young girl in my life right now that's like my little cousins are like too young for Cheetah Girls right now. But it's something that, like I love the idea of one day like my daughter walking, like dancing around my house singing, I don't want to be like someone waiting for a handsome prince to come and save me.
The
Like
best.
That is the
I
best
want that
song.
moment.
The best song.
Yeah,
It's-
and it's
Yeah.
And
It's
like
so
I
true.
it's still true, it still holds up, like it's beautiful in its sentiment because it's not bashing any prince, it's just saying like I don't need that.
you can do
Right.
it.
You can
You
do
can
it
do it
on your
yourself.
own. And I want
Yeah.
my son to hear his sister singing that and see his mother singing that and know that like that is also going to be true, that he is not out here to be the
Anyone's
savior, to be anyone's
yeah.
savior, and he should not treat anybody like some sort of damsel that he has to protect. Like that is not control. Like that is not the way to. Women are full people, equal people to him. Like I want all of that, and I like want like just the image of like a mother and a daughter,
Yeah.
both of darker hues, sitting down watching this together. Like warms my heart, generally speaking.
Yeah.
An iconic.
One of the best DComs, like I think
Yes.
without a doubt.
Yeah, man.
This
Yeah.
is definitely on the top.
Still,
10.
yeah.
Soundtrack,
Like top three.
even the
Top
looks,
three, bro.
even the looks, the soundtracks, the fashion, the storyline. I mean, there are obviously continuity issues, but that happens with every film. Let me
Yeah.
tell you.
It starts in what looks like summer. 2 weeks later, it apparently is Christmas.
And then once again, we're back to fall weather because there was
Like there was no snow on that ground
yeah,
at the end.
the timeline was
It's
crazy,
crazy.
but it's iconic, hands down.
Truly, one of the best. And yeah, well, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed our panel. Thank you, Lisa and Jasmine, for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for listening to me.
And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Critics Kingdom. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and SoundCloud so you can stay up to date, as well as interacting and letting us know what you guys think on social media. You can find us on Twitter at Critics Kingdom and on Instagram at The Critics Kingdom. We're excited to talk to you again next week.